Glen Biegel here on this side. And you're listening to KOAN and KVNT. Go check us out at 1080 KOAN and 1020KVNT.com. We stream live there. I think there's an iPhone app on an Android app, basically. But your computer will stream if you just go out to the website. Here's what I was thinking, Bonnie. How about we get Kathy and Harold Hines on the radio at the same time?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that would be good radio.
A wealth of information.
Yeah. I mean, these are two people who are very well spoken. They're completely up on the issue of the gas line, where the old one was. I don't know whether it's there or not anymore. I got two different sort of views. One from industry, that the governor's looking to ask more from the producers, get them to sort of kick up the ante or something. Hardball with them, which, I don't necessarily mind that. But the other one is that Exxon's like, look, if you got your own line, that's fine. Come up with $65 billion and then tell us when you're ready to buy our gas, because we're ready to sell it at a profit, of course. So I don't know which one's true. But I was just thinking that having on Kathy Giesel and having Harold Hines on, I think they would be two really, because they're both very well spoken and they're both very, they're nice people.
We'll have to work on that.
Okay. Well, that just occurred to me.
We'll make it happen.
Lots to cover on the show today. The Scott Walker is turning out to be the real deal. I don't know. I don't know that we will ever have again somebody who looks like they're as big of a front runner as Scott Walker. He went to CPAC. He blew the doors off the place. He has won episode after episode of the left's hissy fit, fear-mongering campaigns, anti-Koch brothers, and all the rest of the garbage that they try to come up with to scare people into thinking that their liberty is not as important as the special interests that they represent. So I don't know how he is going to be unseated. I was reading a poll that said he's 12 points up on the next person. Now, he's got 25% of the vote, but the next highest person amongst, the 30 or 40 whatever people who people think are running for president was Ron Paul at 13. He's 12 points up in the average of polls. Bush is down at 10. I mean, it's pretty surprising.
I really love how Scott Walker does not give them what they want, the media. He just ignores them. They want to hear him bashing other Republicans, and he just won't do it.
He knows what he's about. And
he's beat them so many times.
Yes, he's done it. He's heard it all. And the thing that scares the media about this guy, and believe me, they already looked into him going to college. Okay, we couldn't get them to give us 5 seconds on Barack Obama. Who were his inspirational leaders? Who did he hang around with? What kind of speeches did he get? What kind of grades did he get? How did he get into Harvard? We didn't know anything about the guy. Nothing. And the media's like, well, why would we look into somebody's college records? Oh, Scott Walker. Oh, I wonder what he did in college.
And it was just the last semester, wasn't it? Yeah. That he didn't finish.
Let's go ask his girlfriend. So they start looking up the guy's girlfriends. I mean, is the media creepy or what? These people are totally out of control.
They'll go interview all his old frat brothers and everything to try to dig up dirt.
What was it? Mitt Romney was he was mean. He hazed somebody or something back in college.
Rand Paul. They were giving him a hard time.
Rand Paul, yeah. Another mean guy. Look, the media has already attempted, and Scott Walker has survived it. So here's the real question. Can the United States elect somebody who has not finished college, even if he is very bright, as I believe Scott Walker to be, even if he's a great speaker? This really gets down to what it takes to be president, because anything wrong with you, anything that the media decides, this is the issue. The issue is, because this is the way they played it. This is how bright the media is. They're so clever. They know a lot about marketing. They know how to convince people. They know how to shade the truth. So this was the track that they took on Scott Walker, Governor Walker, down Wisconsin frontrunner for presidency on the GOP side, and maybe the only person who can beat Hillary. I mean, let's just be relatively honest with each other here. He's done it. He's got a record. You're not going to be able to make up stories about him. The left is going to crash against the shore of Scott Walker and wail and scream and all that kind of stuff. And it's not going to work. So this is the way the media covered him in college. Scott Walker, who did not graduate from college, wants to cut college education. Scott Walker, who did not graduate from college, is looking at trying to reduce the expenses to schools.
He must not want anyone to go to college.
That's right. He's jealous of all those people who went to college, and we can't trust somebody like that because he's crazy. Yes. I don't know. It's so brilliant, because your mind doesn't work that way. When you talk it out, and when we sit here on the radio and go, that's the stupidest argument I've ever heard, whereas 30% of people, they heard it for 5 seconds, and it just got lodged in their brain.
Well, it's a look away from this, people.
Yes.
Look away. Don't look at the substance of who Scott Walker is. Look away from him.
Well, it's just something that if you only hear it for 5 seconds, it kind of slips past your normal BS detector, and all of a sudden it gets stuck. It gets stuck in the old brain. Out of there. I mean, they're brilliant at this. I guess that's the point. But that's what they're going to come up with. Is that enough to prevent somebody who actually has done it? I mean, this is like Rick Perry, but somebody who can really speak. He's done as much as Rick Perry. He's beaten the left, but in a state where it was really hard to beat the left. I mean, that is the brilliance of Scott Walker. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know whether anybody cares about this stuff at this point. I mean, we're forever away from the presidency and running for office. I just saw a Hillary sticker the other day, and it said, "I can't wait for Hillary," and I almost had to pull over. I was like, "Oh God, please don't give us another Clinton." 12 minutes after the hour, this is the Glen Biegel Show, KOAN, KVNT, 569-1080 and 357-5868. Love to hear from you today. Stay tuned. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, yes, it is. It is Glen Biegel Show, and we're here on KON KVNT, 17 minutes after the hour. Love to hear from you, 569-1080 and 357-5868 out in KVNT. Welcome to your drive home. I hope you stay with me the whole 2 hours. Actually, I hope it doesn't take you 2 hours to get home. Something big is happening today. Ben Chavis is talking, and I don't remember. Alaska Policy Forum is putting it on. Bonnie will figure out the details and tell us where that's going to be. It's from 6:30 until whenever the questions run out, I believe, is the way that it's going to run. So make sure to look that up. And the reason to go, by the way, has nothing to do with performance or school safety or your value system or anything else. If you don't figure out how to get choice in education, you won't be able to afford education. It's just that simple. I got news for you. We cannot afford $18,000, $19,000 per child, and us having to pay for that. So there's something's going to bend or something's going to break. Our sponsor for this hour of the program, Dr. Dan Kiley. He's in the middle of Anchorage, and he has got a remarkable general and cosmetic dentistry service. He's been practicing for more than 2 decades, and he established his practice back in 1994, so he's been here 21 years, and he and his team is going to keep your smile healthy and beautiful for a lifetime. Give him a call, and he's the one person everyone needs in their life, a conservative dentist, 562-9209 at 4050 Lake Otis Parkway and at lakeotisdental.com. Do you have that location for that?
Yes. So it's Dr. Ben Chavis. It's at Alaska Pacific University in the Atwood South Dining Hall. It's a free event. It starts tonight at 6:30 and runs to 9 p.m.
My guess is you can leave whenever you want. Dr. Chavis will probably talk for 45 minutes or so, but then he'll take questions. That's really the important part of it. 569-1080, 357-5868. Let me go to Dan Ham with the most exciting political organization in the state of Alaska, ready to take over the reins from the faltering Republican Party, the Alaska Republican Assembly. How's that for some pressure?
Hello, Glenn. How's it going today?
Well, it's going very well. What exciting, with our new senator who keeps putting out these press releases, and every time I read them, my eyes light up, a smile creeps across my face, and he did it again today when he took the president to task for this horrible takeover of the internet with net neutrality, the government trying to fix something that's not broken.
Glenn, I travel a lot, and it's interesting. We're one of the few countries that doesn't have national firewalls and national censorship. So I see the...
So we're the exception.
And we're the exception, yeah.
Well, that's scary. I tell you what, it is very scary what the left, who is not afraid of their government and who does not worry about them, will do if we keep giving them power.
Yes.
Well, what did you call me about? What's on your mind?
Well, I want to talk about budget issues.
Oh, boy. Now, did you hear the conversation that I had yesterday with Cheryl Frasca and Jim Egan with Commonwealth North?
Unfortunately, I didn't. I saw part of it. I saw one of them on TV, and I got part of that on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, look, we walked through some very difficult times here for the state of Alaska, or difficult budget times, difficult government times. If we don't fix the budget, boy, are we ever going to be in trouble.
Yes, my thought is that we need to start moving the ball in the budget. What's happened? The last 2 legislatures before oil prices collapsed, we ran 2 large deficits, the largest in Alaska history. This was under conservative leadership. We had Republican House, Republican Senate, and the governor's office, and we still ran huge deficits. Well, now that oil prices have tanked, we're looking at north of $3.6 billion in the red. And the goal is to get the train back on the tracks again. Probably the most respected think tank in the state is ICER, the University of Alaska's Institute of Socioeconomic Research. They have a think tank, and they've studied it in depth. And their number that they're looking at for a sustainable budget is about $4.5 billion. That's state spending. That doesn't include federal money, which is almost as much on the federal side. But $4.5 billion annually. Last year, we spent about $6.2 billion. The goal is to try to get from 6.2 to 4.5 billion as rapidly as possible.
Because every year we delay, right? It's going to go down from 4.5 to 4.3 to 4.1 every year we delay.
Every year we delay, that sustainable number gets smaller. Now, politically, I've been trying to find some champions on both sides that we can get behind, rally behind, support people that will set a target to try to hit that 4.5 billion goal. Now, one of my heroes on the Senate side for budget reduction is Senator Mike Dunleavy from the Matthew Valley.
Yep.
His goal is to cut on the Senate side is to cut the budget by $700 million this year. And that'll bring it from 6.2 to roughly 5.5, and then cut it 5.5 or 500 million per year until we get down to a sustainable number around 4.5. It'll probably be less than that by the time we reach that number. But at least that moves the ball. Now, what's been bothering me the last 6 weeks or so, and more recently the last week or so, I haven't heard the same pledge in the House. I've heard several House reps say they want to cut the budget, but I haven't heard any targets yet. And today I finally was able to talk to Representative Mark Newman from Big Lake.
You know, it's a big deal because he's the guy who is running and setting the operating budget on the House side. He runs that committee, right?
Yes. At this moment in time, he probably has the most responsibility on the budget because the House does their budget first, and then about a week from now, or 10 days from now, they'll pass it over to the Senate and they'll work on it. But right now, he's in charge of the operating budget, which is the larger of the two parts of the budget. There's a capital budget, which is basically the roads and bridges and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's kind of been zeroed out. I mean, I think all they're doing is just giving enough money to match the building of schools and getting federal matching funds.
Yeah, that'll be a minimum amount this year. So the big amount's going to be on the operating side, which is your bureaucracy costs and your welfare costs and bond repayment costs and whatnot. So I had a really long conversation with Representative Newman. He was very insightful. I asked him, I said, what's on the House side? What's your goals? What's your target? So we can rally behind you and we can kind of hold the legislature accountable if you miss that target. And he said their goal is a reduction of about 600 to 700 million. So that's roughly what the Senate's shooting for. And that to me, that was really pleasing to get that number from him.
Okay. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Another thing he told me was Governor Walker put in a request for 145 million supplementary request in the operating budget to expand Medicare. The legislature is going to appropriate funds to administer federal increase in, Medicaid.
So we want to go backwards so we can supposedly get free cash.
Exactly. Go backwards to go forward. So, and he told me he was adamantly against it and he would cut that. So that was a huge relief that a Republican, or at least of his.
More good news.
More good news. So,
right, because that's going to be hard, by the way. People don't understand, and I really am looking forward, by the way, Daniel Ham is on the phone with me, and he's with the Alaska Republican Assembly, who really is picking up the pieces of a broken Republican Party. It has become an incumbent party. It has become an establishment party and has left most of the growth, most of the energy out in the cold. And so they kind of have withdrawn in on themselves. And so it's up to you, basically, Dan Ham here with Alaska Republican Assembly, to try and pick up the pieces of the conservative movement. Ergo, here he is talking to Representative Newman about the major budget issues that are going on. So continue.
Yes, and he mentioned a couple other areas that were important to him as far as the Republican Party platform is a pro-life platform. And he said he's going to cut funding for abortion from the operating budget, which was a huge step for pro-lifers like myself. He also said he was cutting funding for renewable energy subsidies in Alaska, which the Republican side of the House, that's very good news also. So I got some really good news. And then the last thing he said was, I don't know if he can do this, this requires a separate bill, but he wants to reduce the ratio of bond payments. You know, when the Anchorage School District has a bond, floats a bond issue, or the Matthew Borough, typically the state pays 70% of the bond repayments, and the local government pays 30%.
Oh yeah, I love that story every time they tell it, even though I know it's not necessarily true.
What I like to do is flip it around backwards. I like it 30-70, but the bill you're talking about is the split of 50-50. And what that would do is put a little more responsibility on the local taxpayer who's voting for these bond issues on their shoulders. So rather than just say, well, we can, every time there's an election, the bond measures almost always pass because people want,
free money,
better and newer schools, new roads, and new bridges and whatnot. So they tend to pass pretty regularly. And then the state's left holding the bag because the local tax district only has to pay 30% of it. So all those measures there will move the ball substantially. Now, if I were in the executive position, I'd try to move it even farther. But I understand that at least we're moving it somewhere. In the last decade or so, we've pretty much increased the budget every single year in good years and in bad. Deficits or in surpluses. We've grown the state budget. Time to kind of reverse that, and I see some real leadership now on both sides to do that. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
Well, good. I mean, I'm glad to hear good news because we were worried about the House. They got less conservative. The Senate got a whole lot more conservative. So people are a lot less worried about the Senate, although I'm sure it's all going to be tough when push comes to shove. It doesn't sound like Dan Ham is on the phone here with me, and you're listening to the Glen Biegel Show 28 minutes after the hour. It doesn't sound like I hear a lot of structural changes that are going to save us money long term. We've got a lot more work to do.
We do. We have tons and tons more work to do. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I think the state's got over 24,000 employees. I think that's about $1.3 billion in labor costs. At some point, we're going to have to reduce that number, that head count. One thing I heard.
Hey, Dan, you're going to have to hold on with me, and I want to get the rest of the story here. Dan Ham with Alaska Republican Assembly, 28 minutes after the hour of the Glen Biegel Show. Stay tuned. 26 minutes before the hour. 26 minutes before the hour. The Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN, KVNT. Welcome to your drive home. Love to hear from you. 569-1080 and 357-5868. Dan Ham is still on the phone with us. We'll be right back with him in just el momento. Let me tell you about the folks over at Country Financial. If, a lot of times we go and get insurance, we're like, oh, we're covered. Except for the fact that it's been 15 years now and we haven't updated our insurance for our house. And now we can't afford to build the house that we currently have or anything in it. I mean, there's so many mistakes people make. They oftentimes don't even know what kind of questions to ask themselves. Country Financial has been protecting cars, homes, farms, and lives for more than 85 years. And I hope you give them a call if you are trying to plan out your financial future. That's not easy either. And most of the time, people get that wrong. They under-save or they don't save the right way at the right time. And there's so many tricks to this. CountryFinancial.com is where you can find them. 866-COUNTRY, that is their number. Mike Daniels and his team, 13 locations all across Alaska. And Country is spelled
Country.
We are in the midst. Bonnie and I were talking, and we're going to have this conversation later, but it occurs to me, Bonnie, that conservatives have a very...
We do.
Because you have to always be gentle. You just can't take shortcuts. Never. You can never take a shortcut. You always have to you have to establish tone. I mean, it's just all kinds of things. It's going to be a fascinating conversation, and it's about managing your friendships. Social media. So you are your own Facebook manager. When do you defriend? And when somebody deletes your posts, how do you take that? And what do you think of that? How do you make the best arguments that you can? Let me go back to the phones here to Dan Ham with the Alaska Republican Assembly. Daniel.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Glen Biegel Show. It's nice to have you on with us. As I have described the Alaska Republican Assembly, there is the Republican Party had a change in leadership at the state convention, and then the hand-picked acolytes of the establishment folks sort of made up a few rules and then enforced the new rules after they made them up to unelect the new elected leadership of the Republican Party, thereby essentially defining that the Republican Party in Alaska has got real serious problems. In comes Alaska Republican Assembly, the Conservative Patriots group, but you are the group that is left. The Alaska Republican Assembly makes a difference in elections. You guys are going to participate as a PAC, as I understand it. And these kinds of things make politics move because conservatives want to have their voices heard, and we're not just going to be quiet. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of a background in how, frankly, important and critical you are to what I consider to be the conservative movement in Alaska 2015.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Kind of the quick history of our Republican Assembly group. The Republican Assemblies have been around for 80 years. We're about the 40th state to form a statewide organization. And what we do is we operate within the Republican Party. We're kind of like a tent within the party, similar to like some of the women's groups. We support the platform, but we're a very conservative group in this subgroup, this part of the party. We're very pro-life. We support limited government. We're fiscal conservatives. We're social conservatives. We're strong on defense. Essentially, we believe in the party platform beyond the primary. So that's our forte. We're very similar to Conservative Patriots Group. In fact, our platform, which is the Republican Party platform, and CPG's points were virtually identical. And our mission is to put spirit and life back into the party. We want to get grassroots involvement, young, excited conservatives back in the party. We've seen a lot of ideological drift, not only in Alaska but nationwide, where you really see a lot of people in the middle between the spectrum, kind of blend logical, and sometimes it's hard to tell apart. We're not that at all.
Well, and by that, if I may clarify here on your behalf, you see Republicans becoming Democrats. I don't see any Democrats anywhere. Not a Berkowitz, not a Begich, Begich was like a 6% conservative. You know, I mean, we're not talking about Democrats becoming Republicans. There's no example of that. But there are examples of plenty of Republicans supporting special interests that are at the heart of the Democrat Party movement, and the real people why they want power, political power. They only want it for special interest groups. That's who they want political power for.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. We have several goals. Our goal is to put life, spirit, and energy back in the party, make it a transparent, honest party again, as opposed to where you have to be a part of a lifetime type club to participate. And we're doing it. We're going about it through almost a non-traditional way. We've because of some changes in election laws, we formed a super PAC, and we're able to support conservative candidates. We're going to shortly get involved in the Anchorage mayor's race, supporting it.
Who would be?
One of our members is Amy Dombosky. She's a Reagan conservative. She's a fiscal conservative. She's a social conservative. We met with her. She spoke to us. We have very, very similar values. So she's the one that we've endorsed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to let people know I have also given money to Amy Dombosky, and somebody tried to shame me about that. And I said, look, I'm a conservative. I want to participate in politics the same as anybody else. I had Dan Coffey on the air, though, and frankly, I thought it was a good interview. If anybody out there can fault the interview that I gave Dan Coffey, I dare you to call me and make your case, because I did not run that interview any differently because I had supported Amy than I would have at any other time. So I just want people to be clear and for me to be transparent as well, because it's kind of rare for people who are in the media to support a candidate. But it's not rare for me. I get involved quite a bit with candidates. And Anand's on the air, by the way, with us, or at least he's on the phone with us. Anand, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, I just wanted to publicly thank Daniel for the amazing work that he's done in bringing the assemblies here to town. And, you've pretty much covered the basic points I want. But, the bottom line is that if you are a disillusioned Republican, if you feel that there's something missing in the Alaska Republican Party, and you're on your way out, because I've heard in my, talking to people, person after person saying, you know what, I'm a conservative, but I just simply cannot identify, with the Republican Party anymore. I would say that this is the time to please come back in the fold, and specifically join the Republican Assembly. It's fairly simple, and hopefully Daniel can talk about that, and not only join but become part of the process. Because here's the thing: everybody realizes that the Alaska Party, Republican Party, is controlled by the same set of drummers. I mean, when a drum beat starts, you're supposed to follow the beat. You're not supposed to ask questions. I mean, this question of, well, why didn't we cut the budget when we had the largest conservative government last year? If you ask those questions, or when I used to ask those questions, people would look down upon me or anybody asking those questions because it was almost unpatriotic.
Yeah, it's like you don't understand that we're here to elect the people who are already here, and that's really all we're here about. I mean, and it's kind of a sad and shocking thing when you find out the real truth. It
really was. And then I've heard, statements like, oh, we end up attacking our old conservative candidates. And I'm like, look, I'm going to attack anybody I have to attack to protect the people of Alaska. It's
not attack them. You're going to call them out.
Right.
It's called a record. It's called having a plan. It's called worrying about what happens to the state of Alaska if we don't do the right thing.
That's exactly right. So when I ran into Daniel Ham and the work that these guys were doing, and look at the amount of just soul searching that these guys have made the legislature do, even at this spot. And my question is, where's the Republican Party? Where's the Republican Party asking these questions that Daniel is asking? So for me,
great question, Anand. Great question.
And for me, Daniel Ham is the Republican Party. I mean, the Republican assemblies is the place where I'm going to rest my head when all said and done. And there's also a fundraiser, I think, and I'll let Daniel talk about that. But thanks for taking my call, man.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, Anand. All right, well, we're running out of time, so let's wrap this up. You had an amazing call with Mark Newman. You gave us some of the details of it, all very, very, very positive. I can't actually tell you to think that we have some responsible leadership down in Juneau that you found out. So you guys are thinking to get the mayor's race here in Anchorage. Tell me a little bit more about that and how people can find out more.
Yes, we're raising money for our super PAC. We're aiming who we think is the most conservative candidate. Well, we're involved in just a multitude of things. We're trying to enforce fiscal discipline the best we can help and put pressure on people that are wavering. We're looking at 3 ballot initiatives in 2016. Here's a preview coming attractions. Some sort of right to work legislation, possibly in Alaska. We're looking at term limits.
Can't be forced to pay union dues.
And exactly, pocket deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing we're looking at, the education is a complete disaster in Alaska with sneaking in Common Core and federalizing our classrooms. We would like to see a ballot initiative that brings in the Arizona Educational Savings Account model that basically funnels money directly to parents, let them decide, and then have a provision that keeps federal Common Core type curricula out of the state, to where the local school districts can adopt it via elected boards, but the state doesn't force it on.
How do people find out more about Alaska Republican Assembly?
We have a website. You can Google it. It's www.alaskara.com. We also have a Facebook page, we have a public forum page, and we're looking at doing a super PAC fundraiser. This is a general purpose fundraiser in Anchorage at Denny's by Northern Lights there on Saturday at 4 p.m. And this is tentative. We haven't
coming up Saturday. This Saturday at 4 p.m.
Correct.
All right. Well, give us a call, firm that up, and give us a call again tomorrow, and we'll just briefly go over that if that.
Well, thank you, Glenn.
All right. Appreciate it. It's 14 minutes before the hour. This is the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN KBNT. And we're actually going to give away 2 $50 gas cards, courtesy of Payless Car Sales later. That's very exciting for me because I'm trying to keep you on the road as much as I possibly can, right? Because that's what we do when we are your drive home. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show, 14 minutes before the hour. You look marvelous. 10 minutes before the hour, it is the Glen Biegel Show. And things are getting a little bit heated up here politically. We've got a mayor's race underway, and the state budget process, Commonwealth North, has waded in with both feet, and we can be really thankful for that. Alaska Dispatch News covers it this way. Commonwealth North calls for overhaul of state budget practices and reopening contract talks. Ooh, did you just feel the temperature in the room drop by about 20 degrees? Yeah. Now we're talking about people's paychecks. You know, the real difficult thing here is a lot of decent people, right thing, and we cannot possibly afford to continue to do business the way that we have. We just can't. And so the difficult part, because we're talking about, yes, this affects your family, and it's going to be hard, and we are probably going to have to renegotiate. We probably are going to have to get rid of thousands of state employees. It's just not going to be easy. There's nothing easy about this. Frankly, we're probably going to have to get rid of, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 welfare recipients. Yes, you heard it here. Doesn't that sound cruel? And by get rid of, we will not support them with state money. They're going to have to move somewhere else. They can't stay. We don't have money to keep you in your apartment at $800 a month. Nobody has that money. I can't pay $800 a month out of my family's budget so you can stay in an apartment. I can't afford that. Nobody can. Now, we've been fat and happy and lazy, and we've been the most violent, drug-abusing, spouse-abusing, child-abusing society on the earth. Well, maybe not on the earth, but at least in America. And it's time for us to stop. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to figure this out. So we are going to see a lot of changes. And when we see Commonwealth North wander in and try and help us figure this out, we should be thankful. These are very thoughtful, very responsible business people. And they're going to help us answer some of the hardest questions that, frankly, I'm going to be very frank here. I like Governor Walker. I like him as a man. I know he's very thoughtful. I could not be more disappointed in his leadership at this point with the budget. Period. I mean, he did one step better than coming in with the same budget we had last year, okay? He got $240 million. We're $3.5 billion short. What's $240 million? What the heck are we talking about here? What we're talking about is you are going to have to pay a $2.5 billion tax. Ergo, that means you're going to be paying around 15 grand, between 12 and 15 grand per family on average. Do you have that kind of money? Are you going to stay in Alaska if the government's going to take that much? No way. No chance. Marijuana about 114 times less deadly than alcohol. How about that? That came out in a study here recently. And little diamide, this is the way that it's going to look. And I'm looking forward to taking your calls here to 569-1080 and 357-5868. If you want to think about the state of Alaska as a body, and we have major arteries, we got a heart, which is basically the city of Anchorage, or that's the pipeline, and that's the heart of Anchorage. All right, that's the heart of Alaska. And we pump money we pump blood out in the form of money to all these little teeny tiny blood vessels that are all spread all throughout the body. The problem is we got hypothermia. There's not enough blood to go around. There's not enough heat. We cannot continue to support this entire massive infrastructure with public money anymore. And little parts are going to start dying. Little parts are going to start having to come back. The only part, and when you have hypothermia, the only part that you can keep heated is your core, right next to your heart, right next to your lungs, your stomach, your major organs, and all those kind of things. You have all kinds of problems with your fingers, and then with your arms, right, and with your toes, and all those kind of things. Little diamide has not had a delivery for a month, and they're starting to shut down. They're starting to run out of resources. We're going to see this more and more. I know it's going to be hard to watch, but frankly, we cannot afford to pay. It's probably costs like $20,000 per student, $25,000 per student to run their schools out there. We can't do it. We can't build your roads. We can't fix your houses. We can't pay for your kids to go to your schools. We just can't do it because the only employer out there basically is the school district. It just can't happen. And I know these are going to be hard decisions and hard questions and all that, but we got to be adults about this, and that's what talk radio is about. All right, lots to cover, and I want to go take your phone calls. Let me talk to Richard. Richard, welcome to KOAN KVNT.
Good afternoon. If you add up the numbers on a public assistant, you make almost $100,000 a year.
Oh my gosh, for a family of four.
For a family of 3 or 4, it's $100,000 a year.
Richard, we can't do it. Come on.
But nobody sees that because it's in this ETF. There's the funds go quietly out and about.
That's right. And they don't count any of it as income, by the way. Your rental assistance, not counted as income. Your food assistance, not counted as income. The only thing they count as income is actual cash payments to you.
And that usually falls under the minimum wage or the minimum taxable. But it's almost $100,000 when you add up all of the benefits that you can get. And this is what needs to be known, because people will, oh no, it's not possible. Well, you go out and you take a policy out for unlimited dental and health for your children. How much is that going to cost you a month?
Oh, tons.
You get babysitting. You get house care. You get food stamps. You get all
rental assistance.
Yep. On and on. You add all of those up, and those are tax-free dollars. Now, when you look at it in another point, in other words, at a 2,000-hour work week or work year, that's $50 an hour.
There's no way, Richard, we can afford to pay that.
I mean,
here's the important thing. I believe this budget session, we've got to let these folks know that, look, the gravy train's coming to an end. There's no possible way we can pay $100,000 for you guys to stay in Alaska. You're either going to have to get a job and you're going to have to get off welfare. You're going to have to leave and go somewhere else. They're going to pay your welfare bills.
We need to go back to prior to Johnson's Great Society.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
and you know what it'll take, you know what it'll take, Richard? It'll take jobs up here in Alaska because
until we have jobs.
Yeah.
Like I said, you never hear anything about Red Dog and the villages around it.
That's right. Absolutely right.
They're all fully employed and they're happy.
Richard, great call. Thanks so much. 569-1083-575868. George, we're going to have to get back with you, and I'm going to turn you over to Bonnie because Nathan McPherson, who is a nationally known constitutional lawyer, has got to talk to us about Common Core. This is the Glen Biegel Show, KOAN, KVNT, and your drive home. Stay tuned. You gotta turn my headphones over to him. Don't put me out over the air, because that'll be very disappointing. Oh, wait. I might need to. I need to put him on air so I can talk to him, right? But I can still hear the station. Nathan.
Yes.
Hi there. Hey,
How are you doing?
Bonnie. I'm doing very well. I caught a little bit, or got report of a little bit of a conversation you had with Joe on his program about Common Core.
Yes.
And one of the things I got the sense that we had an opportunity to bring to a head this constitutional difficulty that you and I have with Common Core, and that comes in the form of our right to privacy in the state of Alaska.
Yes.
So that was my suggestion, that some of the homeschoolers who are concerned about this, and frankly, there should be a lot of people who are concerned, homeschool or not, that these tests are asking your children a whole bunch of questions that you would personally object to, that they have no right to know, and that is involving our privacy.
Yes.
Okay. So now your suggestion to Bonnie was, we don't want to use a permission slip. Why not?
I didn't ask permission to do other things that my creator has granted me a right to do.
Yeah, but these are kids.
Well, the only...
Right. Well, here's the difficulty I have. I don't want the conversation to go on between a child and an adult who's an educator. Right. So what I'm trying to do is make it so that the parent instructs the child. You hand this to the adult, and the permission slip is going to, I want it to have some kind of legal authority, some kind of structure around it. So it sounds like it's not just, hey, I object to your test. I don't really know what's on it, but I don't like it. I want it to come from a legislator, because they are the empowered party to determine, because right, it says in our Constitution, the legislature shall determine what this section means.
The legislature has an affirmative duty to defend our privacy rights.
To determine what it is, to actually define them. That's what they say. That's what the Article 22 of the Alaska Constitution says. It's the second sentence. The legislature shall define this section.
Oh, in that respect, but
yeah,
the Supreme Court has already defined our privacy rights.
Oh, no. The legislature has the right. It's right in the Constitution. The legislature has the right to define what privacy means in the state of Alaska. The courts have, in the absence of action by the legislature, taken upon themselves to define all kinds of weird privacy rights.
Well, but
the legislature could establish, look, it's the right to privacy, not for your child to have to participate in the weird Common Core questions.
I guess the legislature could expand that right.
Yes, exactly.
Contract that right.
But my point is that I wanted to give Laura Reinbold some kind of, official duty here to say, yes, I am going to grant people the ability to give this thing to their kids. They can give it to the teacher, and then they don't have to take this test.
When they don't have to anyway, because of the Fourth Amendment and the Alaska Constitution. Representative Reinbold cannot on her own define that, because she is a legislator, not the legislature.
Yeah, but I would take it upon myself, if I were her, to say, I'm stepping in the way here. I'm going to insert myself in the privacy situation that our federal groups have essentially forced down on us.
Okay.
And give us an out.
We've got like 20 seconds. So
what's the Fourth Amendment, by the way?
The Fourth Amendment's privacy right. The United States Constitution.
Oh, the Fourth Amendment. Okay. Well, it's the 22nd here, right?
Okay.
In Alaska.
We got to go.
Okay. All right. Hold on, Nathan. Five minutes after the hour sponsor for this hour of the Glen Biegel Show here on KON and KVNT is A&A The Shop, Alaska's independent Subaru Service Center, 562-3919 here in town. Yes, they'll take you to work. Just got to call ahead and make sure they got somebody to be able to do that. Best shop in Anchorage. You bet. 6 out of the last 12 years. It's an amazing accomplishment. They got the best warranty in the business. And ASE certified mechanics. 562-3919 out in Eagle River, 696-2096, atheshop.com. And they always have, by the way, they always have some kind of giveaway going on their Facebook page, as I recall. So that's another thing you can go and check out. But give them a call right now. If you've got a Subaru, they only deal with Subarus. That's the place to take it. You don't have to take your Subaru to is a constitutional lawyer here. He's here in the state of Alaska. And there are a number of constitutional sort of crises that are all creeping up on us. And I know that we can talk about Common Core. And I would like to know, Nathan, whether or not you're comfortable talking about the situation with net neutrality, whether or not you have any opinions on what's going on in the immigration situation. I've got a clip in front of me where Obama threatens people who work in ICE that says, if you don't follow my executive order and ignore the law, I am going to punish you, if you can imagine that. I don't know where you want to go with it. Essentially, the court is yours. You tell us what kind of game we're going to play.
Well, all of it ties together because all of this that's going on, whether it's Common Core, immigration, internet, you name it, is executive tyranny. The federal executive branch is taking action it does not have constitutional authority to take, most notably, and I think that sort of the underlying fundamental one being with the Common Core education standards, which Alaska has adopted as well as most, if not all, of the other states. Alaska, of course, has a different name for them, but they are identical. I've seen side-by-side comparisons. They are identical with exception of a few words that are synonyms in the Alaska standards.
So executive tyranny. Now, I'm going to ask you a hard question. I'm on with Nathan McPherson. Actually, tell us a little bit about yourself, Nathan. I don't know you all that well. I heard you on Joe's show. I just thought you had a great presentation, and I wanted to have you on here with us.
Yeah, I'm a second-generation tax defense attorney, constitutional lawyer, beatirs.com. So I go head-to-head, toe-to-toe with the Internal Revenue Service as well as state revenuers in the states that have income tax. My dad started the law firm when I was born. Basically, he came up here to Alaska from Arizona, tried and won 3 cases back-to-back the 3 weeks after the week I was born, went on to try, I think, a total of 9 cases up here in Alaska and 25 criminal tax cases in 47, I think, of the United States over the course of his career. He's still practicing with me, and I'm slowly taking over the family law firm here.
Well, look, I love this. I actually want my oldest daughter. I'm hoping she becomes a lawyer. And everybody says, well, look, we got so many lawyers. I'm like, we don't have very many good lawyers. We need a few champions. We need a few warriors, because I call lawyers warriors. And because you guys fight on a particular field of battle that if you don't have warriors to fight on that field of battle, you're going to lose every time.
That is correct. And yeah, there are very few. That's, my dad and I didn't become lawyers because we like all the other lawyers, but rather because the rest of them, by and large, are not stepping up to the plate. Don't remember that we as lawyers, too, have taken an oath to defend the Constitution, just like the politicians. And very few of us do that.
9 minutes after the hour here on the Glen Biegel Show. 569-1080 is the number if you have a question for Nathan McPherson. Let me ask you the hard question before we get back into Common Core and what people can do about it. I heard some of the questions that are sort of at the beginning of that test, and I don't like any of them. Here's the hard question. When it comes right down to it, if the Democrats, who have historically been, as far as government goes, just as fearing of government as anybody else, it's only in very modern times, very late times that Democrats have come to love the idea of government power and government lording over us and government telling us what to do and controlling our internet and not controlling our borders. I mean, these are very recent things. But I'm guessing that there's a whole bunch of Democrats from previous generations that don't recognize this Democrat Party, who is not afraid of executive tyranny. They're not afraid of Obama. So that's the difficult question I have. If the Democrats don't care that Obama is practicing executive tyranny, what in the world are we going to do about it?
We have to act locally, and just the name of the party alone tells Democrat they want democracy. Well, we're getting democracy. Our Constitution the United States Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, guarantees us a republic. The Founding Fathers in the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers discuss this issue, that anytime you have democracy, you're going to have mob rule. You're going to have people's passions dictating what happens. We've been seeing that just with the Ferguson riots and other things going on recently. And that gives the executive the opportunity to seize power. And the Founding Fathers knew, and other political philosophers over the centuries have known, that anytime you have democracy, you get mob rule, it deteriorates into chaos.
Well, this is the problem. As far as I can tell, I'm not hearing an answer to my question, which is, if the Democrats, who have apparently a majority, they won the last two elections, one by 9 million votes and the other one by 5 million votes. If they have an operational majority and they don't want anything other than mob rule, it seems like,
what do we do?
Yeah, it seems like we're in a pretty tight spot.
We need to act locally and encourage our local politicians to follow the law and follow the Constitution, help them to do that, and help them to push back against those who don't want to do the right thing.
Because there's still a legal structure that
Correct.
can protect our rights. We're just not using it as the state of Alaska.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to get to when we come back on the other side of the break here. Nathan McPherson is on with us. He is a constitutional lawyer here in the state of Alaska, and I want to get to the questions that are being asked at the front end, possibly. I don't know whether they're in every test or some tests, or they're not sure whether they're going to put them in the test. I just heard about them, and they completely freaked me out. I was really shocked at it. 12 minutes after the hour here on the Glen Biegel Show, 569-1080. 569-1080 and 357-5868. This is your drive home. Stay tuned. 16 minutes after the hour, I had to sit my son down, tell him, son, I don't want you to be a loser, at least not a Craigslist loser. You got to go out to Payless Car Sales, 677 Auto, 919 East 5th Avenue. I've been a Craigslist loser like over and over and over again. They sell cars a different way. They have their own shop, so they take them in. They make sure, first of all, they get top-notch cars, but anything that is wrong with them, they will fix. It's just a great way to buy a car. You know, you're going to get a good deal. They're listeners to the program, and I trust these guys. 677 Auto, 919 is 5th, and online at paylesssales.com. We're in the midst of talking with Nathan McPherson, and I got a quick question here for you, Nathan, before I get to a caller who wants. Nathan?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry about that. Have you ever had to defriend someone off of Facebook?
How do you come to ask that question?
Well, we're looking for advice. And Bonnie has gone through this very difficult process of defriending somebody here in the last couple of days. And so we're just sort of taking a survey.
What would you have done in that situation?
In Bonnie's situation, I would have answered the question better, and therefore not. I was
a little abrupt,
not
or abrasive, whichever one.
I kind of go over the top. Nathan McPherson is a constitutional lawyer. I know that conservatives have to go above and beyond whenever we are talking with somebody who doesn't agree with us and who, you know, we are going to have some disagreements. I really, really, really go to extraordinary lengths to try and explain my position and explain where I'm coming from, and usually that cuts off a lot of the real difficulties you can run into.
It seems to me that we're called to be lights in the world, and so the more contact we have with people, the more we can minister and let our lights shine to them. So I would.
You try to stay away from unfacebooking people, unfriending.
I would try to stay away from it, but I'm not. There are different circumstances that might require it, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, and
my claws come out a little bit.
There were some lights right on her nails
yes.
that actually were shining pretty brightly. I'm sorry, I had to ask that. I just Nathan is on for a very serious purpose here, which, you know, defriending someone on Facebook is serious.
Let me ask you a couple of questions here, and you don't need to answer these. This is more rhetorical, but how old were you when you first smoked marijuana, began drinking alcohol, carried a handgun, belonged to a gang? Would you agree or disagree, or how much would you agree or disagree with the following statements? People in my family often insult or yell at each other. Sometimes I think life is not worth it. And if you don't want to answer these questions, do you want your children to be asked these questions in a school test?
Great point. Aren't each one of these things an invasion of privacy and exactly what the government should be preventing the feds from asking our children?
Well, under the Alaska Constitution, Section 1, Article 22, the right of the people to privacy is recognized and shall not be infringed. Sounds kind of like the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. And the legislature shall implement this section.
Now, I'm suggesting, by the way, that our legislature do just that. And in the meantime, that some legislators stand up and step in the way of this oncoming Common Core freight train, which just a couple of these questions. Do you not feel like living life? There was something about a gun, whether or not your parents have a gun.
Yeah, various questions about gun use in the home, about alcohol use in the home. Lots of questions about home life.
What in the heck is going on with our school system? Let me get you a question here from Mike. Mike, welcome to KON KVNT, the Glen Biegel Show. You're on with Nathan McPherson.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
I kind of got a question that's kind of off a little bit from like your earlier conversation about the budget, and you both may be able to help me out with this. Now, I'm a conservative, but I do question even Republicans, some people's motives and everything else. Can't be a sheeple and just, go along with the flock and hope everything runs okay. Well, we're what, $3.5 billion in the hole right now in the state?
At least could be 4.
Okay, well, I got a question is, did we pay the $2 billion out to the oil companies after that fine vote we had?
We actually are getting $1 billion more in taxes since we passed the law because it changed the base tax rate from 25 to 35%. And not only that, but we're getting rid of a tax credit. So actually, the oil companies asked for this law change, but we ended up getting the better end of the deal. Shockingly, Mike.
Oh, because nobody's talked about it, and I'm trying to figure out. Wait a minute. Okay, it got all quiet after the vote. Nobody spoke a word about it, so I was kind of like going.
Yeah, this is totally from two factors. The new law actually gives us $1 billion more. That's why the left is not talking about how awful this new law is, because it gives us so much more public money. But the real problem is a drop in production and a lowering oil price. I mean, the oil price is down something like 60, 65%.
I understand the oil prices, but with the $2 billion we gave them, and now they canceled a lot of projects because the oil crash, we're never going to see that $2 billion back, are we?
Well, I don't know what $2 billion we're talking about. What?
Well, I guess during the deal was with the tax cut, there was going to be a $2 billion bonus given to the oil companies to strive and to, what do you call it, make more of a production to help out with projects that were supposed to be on the board.
Oh, well, I think what you're talking about is the investment tax credit, which was on and that was part of ACES that tried to incentivize people going out and exploring.
It was on Parnell's deal. We were giving $2 billion to kind of.
That was the number the other side used. But the problem with the $2 billion was it wasn't real. That was expecting that we had a certain price for oil and so on and so forth.
So
they're right.
Clauses on that.
At $105 a barrel, that's where the break even was between ACES and the new law, Senate Bill 21. We were at like $120 a barrel. So yeah, it would have been a $2 billion giveaway over 4 years or something like that. But then when we fell down below 105 and then below 100, then below 90, then below 80, actually the law has turned out to be a much bigger boon on behalf of the state.
Oh, good. Okay, I was thinking we handed over the $2 billion and called it good, and
no,
well, that's goodbye.
Yeah, I remember that argument now. Yeah, that was based on $120 a barrel oil. Hey, Mike, I gotta let you go. Sorry about that. Nathan is on with us, and we took a little detour. Are you still okay?
Yeah.
You haven't defriended us yet?
Nope.
I appreciate that, staying with us. Sometimes, we got to take calls as we get asked them, and it's very important that we do that here on Talk Radio. You gave us a list of questions that are they asked in every state? In some states, could they be asked or not asked? And if a parent objects to these as an invasion of privacy and does not want their children to answer questions like this, what is a parent to do?
Yeah, so different questions are asked at different times in different states. Alaska will be having this testing coming up in April, and I'd like to tell you exactly what's on that test, but it's a secret, and I guess I'd have to,
Okay, well, let's take worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is what? Give us the list of questions that your children on the Common Core evaluation tests that are coming up in the spring.
All of these types of questions as to what's in your home respecting guns, abuse, do people yell at each other, various things like that. What are your political views? What are your parents' political views? Did you vote for Obama? Would you vote for Obama? What do you think about global warming? All of these types of things have been asked at various times in various places, and they won't tell anybody on the test. No parents have been able to find out what will be on the test. So these questions come from things that already have been asked, and the kids are taking these home afterwards, or some kids are taking that.
Nathan McPherson is on radio with me, and you did just hear what he just said. I mean, it seems incredible that here are these crazy educators who, look, they don't fear of government finding out information about you, tracking you, asking your children questions that you are very uncomfortable with. I mean, there's all kinds of problems going on here. But we have a constitutional right to freedom from government invasion of our privacy, and that includes our children. How do is there a structure? Is there a process? I realize that the legislature could do that, but they don't even know what's on the test. In the absence of that, is there anything that a legislator could do, or the legislature should do right now?
So under the Alaska Constitution, the legislature has an affirmative duty to defend our right to privacy. The second sentence in Article 1, Section 22 says the legislature shall implement this section, which says, is the section saying the right of the people to privacy is recognized and shall not be infringed. Alaska also has the basic Fourth Amendment, so to speak, right, or recognizes the same right that the U.S. Constitution, Fourth Amendment, general right to privacy, and you have to have a warrant to search somebody's house and that type of thing. That is also in here, but this is a separate section, specifically sort of like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
It's very, very strong. It's one of the strongest statements on privacy in the country. Our legislature has the duty here. Now, I don't know that we can get to the point and all that kind of stuff. My suggestion was probably a little odd, and it might sound a little weird, but I'm kind of asking a legislator to step forward, one or more, and say, if you want your children, if you're worried about privacy, an invasion of privacy from your children from this test, I will give you the ability not to take it. That's the best I can come up with, because I want some structure here where the child is not put in to tell a teacher, I'm not going to take your test, because that is an unfair and a really bad situation. Anyway, so that's what I'm suggesting. Nathan McPherson, beatirs.com is his website, and it sounds like you've got a lot of work to do with the IRS being as strong as it is these days.
Yeah, we keep pretty busy.
I'm sure you do. Thanks so much for being on the Glen Biegel Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. It is 28 minutes after the hour. Give us a call, 569-1080, 357-5868. We're going to give away a $50 gas card right now. Give us a call, 569-1080, 357-5868. Caller number 2. 26 minutes before the hour, it is the Glen Biegel Show. I love giving stuff away. There's just something about it. We just gave away a $50 gift card, gas card, courtesy of Payless Car Sales. And,
to Evie.
oh, congratulations, Evie. And we're going to give away one more today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another $50 gas card on its way in the next break. That's fun. That's good stuff. I could get used to that. I could get used to giving stuff away all the time. If you are looking for somebody to help you with your roof, Earhart Roofing is there for you. 345-5555. They can do commercial, industrial, and, of course, residential. A free re-roofing estimate. Yes, you heard that right. From the best in the business. Better Business Bureau Business of the Year for 2010. For every business in the whole state of Alaska, it's an amazing accomplishment. You'll find out why, by the way. Go out to earhartroofing.com and you can look at past projects, and there's a whole bunch of people there who recommend them, and they give a little story about it, and they're also just very touching. 345-5555. When you think roofing, think Earhart, EARHART. All right, we got a couple of things we need to cover. The first is, should we talk defriending or should we talk wedding? Because I have a daughter that's getting married in June, which is new for me.
Let's do wedding.
Okay,
I'm putting off the defriending. I still feel badly.
Well, you're going to have to fix that. You realize that. So yes,
say
you
it
are.
isn't so.
No, it is. There's no way around it. And well, when I defriended somebody and then I talked about it on the air, but they were really just being abusive to me. And I wasn't going to put up with that. So I defriended them and they've come back. I've refriended them here just recently. And frankly, they seem to be a good friend of the program and very well behaved. And they actually have great calls and everything. So I think these things can turn out, and maybe there's a healing process that goes on. All right. So we're going to want to talk weddings first.
Sure.
So I have not had any of my children wed.
This will be your first.
This will be my first. She's finishing up school in May, and then she's going to get married in June.
So exciting.
And you hear DJ Brian Hoff. He's going to be the master of ceremonies for the wedding, which I think takes a lot of the pressure off me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they're for.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well,
they direct it.
I'm in favor of all of that.
Yes.
So he's going to, and there'll be like 200, 250 people at the reception. And it's going to be at my daughter's school, her high school here in Anchorage. So it's going to be quite fun. But I don't know. I'm a little worried about the process. I think we have a good plan. But it's like I'm not involved in it at all. I don't think they would want to involve me. I had to deal with the tables and the chairs, and that's my job, is to get the tables and the chairs there.
So the manual labor is up to you.
Well, some small part of it, because there's flowers and then there's food that's got to be brought in.
Now, do you guys have a wedding coordinator?
No. Well, my daughter is like taking on a whole bunch of, she's trying to finish up college and get her thesis done, and then she's also planning all this other stuff, and she's got a lot of people involved, but I don't think there's a professional wedding planner in the mix. Is that a mistake?
Well, I don't know. I had one, but that was 17, 18 years ago.
Okay, now what did they do for you? Did
Well,
they just hold your hand?
I was out of town. I was in Kodiak working on a fish weir, and so my mom went and got a wedding coordinator, and she took care of everything. And I didn't have to do a thing. I just showed up.
Oh, my gosh. That is weird.
It was great.
How expensive was that?
I don't think it was very much. It was in Arkansas, though. So maybe that's why.
Because this is what I thought the wedding planner would do, is they'd have this little red light that's off most of the time. And then when you turn it to Bridezilla, it would start flashing and going off and say, okay, sit down, sweetie.
Now, is your daughter a bridezilla? Do you think she'll really be one?
No, I don't think so.
But maybe every bride has.
It's so funny because the first child of 9, is basically like more responsible than 90% of the moms out there.
Aw.
Because she has to be. She had to handle situations. She had to make sure people were where they needed to go, and she's driven a lot of people around, and she, corrects people and makes sure the rules are enforced. I don't know. You know all those things.
Yeah.
So I think she's going to be fine. She's very down to earth.
Now, are you setting the bar low or high in regards to budget? Because, you've got a few more after this.
Okay, this is the way that the budget bar has gone. It started up here, like 20,000, and then it went way down, and it would, and now it's back up to like 12 maybe.
Oh, well, you're going to have to, I think it would be best to start low, because doesn't it just get more expensive as things go on?
I have no idea.
Because they'll say, so-and-so had this, I want that. And then it'll get more expensive from there.
I have no idea. I have found out there's lots of support out there to help put on the wedding. You know, they've automated a lot of things. You can even get your cards done at Costco and things like that. I mean,
wow.
it's just amazing.
Yes.
All right. So we've put off defriending as long as we can.
Well, we can still.
Okay. So give us the details of the situation. Obviously, no names are gonna go on here. And you're feeling bad about this at this point or whatever, but that's just because
I'm still
people
a little bitter.
Oh, you're a little bitter. Okay. You feel justified. And from your description of it, and I'm going to call you out on it if I sense that your story is trending from the truth.
Okay, well, it was just a few hours ago. So
all right.
Basically, somebody was asking a question about vaccinations, and they said that their 20-something-year-old son was of the opinion that the government should mandate vaccinations for children. And I said that's a slippery slope, and that the government shouldn't mandate things, because what if there comes a time that you don't want what the government wants to put in your body or your child's body? And he also said that if you don't vaccinate your child, then you should, and another child gets sick, then you should be held responsible for that.
So he's confused at the very start. If you don't vaccinate your child, other children don't get sick. That's because they didn't vaccinate their child.
Right.
Okay, so you have absolutely nothing to do with other people getting sick.
Well,
that's their situation. Does he not get that part of it? Because he might be a little confused about what a vaccination does. A vaccination doesn't get other people sick because they can get vaccinated if they want.
But I do understand that there are some people who cannot get vaccinated. They can't have what's in the vaccine, or they're too young. There are circumstances.
I guess I've heard of these things. These are really, really, really rare.
Yeah, and that's not the point. Let's think about the reason we're getting the measles back in here too. So that's another subject. But the whole point was that it was the mother's question.
And the mother's your friend.
Yes.
Okay, so we're on a difficult path here, as you will note, because this is the child, an adult child
son
of a friend.
Yes.
And moms, tell me if this is true. You will probably never consider your adult children as anything other than, this is my child. It's my job to protect them. I have to keep them from the world and all that kind of stuff.
No.
That's not
I
you.
actually, when I was writing back about all this, because he basically attacked me first, saying you're just one of those crazy people who thinks that the government's in control of everything, and you're afraid of the government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, like all of our founding fathers.
Yeah, basically. So, and I kind of reminded him of that throughout the conversation, and he and I were having a back and forth. And she got upset because she started being Mama Grizzly, that I was calling her son out.
She actually Facebooked me. I didn't read it. And people will find out this about me. To me, telling me about the conversation that you were having with somebody else is gossip.
Yeah, they called my boss.
And I'm actually not interested in gossip. I generally don't participate, and I'm not interested. And gossip is telling somebody who does not need to know negative information about them, which may or may not be untrue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's my take on it so far. We've got a woman who has an adult son who has a set of beliefs which you disagree with. He is now voting age.
Mm-hmm.
He could be completely emancipated. He's in charge of himself, and he's in charge of your life. But I think where you probably went wrong right off the bat is to lay those things out. To say we're having a mature adult political discussion now.
Mm-hmm.
The friendship part of it, that's over here. This adult political discussion where your son thinks that he can have his government inject things which he says are healthy into my children. We're going to have a different kind of discussion about that. And it doesn't necessarily have to follow along the lines of we're friends, so that this is how these discussions go. This is a political discussion, and that has a very particular reason for occurring, because he's saying he wants a government which has powers over me and my children, which I don't like. So I'm about to object to that, and I just want you to understand this has nothing to do with friendship, and it has nothing to do with the fact that this is your child. Now, you could actually go and explain this to her now, but it's too late.
Well, I did get childish back though, because I told
Bonnie.
her that he was going to make a good comrade, and Obama would be proud.
Now, see, I like that as a comeback. And if you had set it up properly to say people like you, people like your son, people who are educated in college and in university, mostly by left-wingers who are not afraid of the government, as I am, and legitimately so, because the government is not made up of decent people. You know, it's not my church. This is not my family. These are not people who've proven to me that they have really smart and well-meaning tendencies. You know what I mean? That so I just think that if you had built sort of the sideboards around the conversation, it probably wouldn't have gotten to the point where she's saying, "Oh, you're attacking my son." I'm sorry, your son is saying that he wants a completely left-wing, fascist, frankly, government who says that it can do things to my children that I don't want it to do. That's a different kind of government. That's a different kind of power that we don't want government to have. So I'm going to correct your son in my way. And frankly, he's an adult. He needs to be able to deal with this. So I want you to know our friendship has to be set aside here, because we have to have a big conversation, a big person conversation now.
Well, and my response to him was that you're the head of the government because you're willing to do whatever they tell you to do. I'm not afraid of the government.
I like that.
I will defend myself.
I'm afraid of the government.
Well, then we're living under tyranny then, right?
Well, and that's what and all the separation of powers and all these chains and limitations that they put on government, because they knew that government, if it got too much money, gee, that sounds familiar. If it got believed in the government instead of believing in their own power, right, as a king in and of themselves. That was the brilliance of the United States. That was the foundational idea, was that, you know what, you don't need a king, you don't need a ruler, because you are majesty. You are your king. Live that way. Glen Biegel Show, 14 minutes before the hour. 10 minutes before the end of the show. Actually, should we give away that other $50 gas card courtesy of Payless Car Sales? We want to keep you on the road. I mean, that's really how most people are probably listening to me. Lots of other ways to listen to me, by the way. But if you want to give us a call right now, try and be safe about it. Try and be gentle about it. Be relaxed. Maybe we'll do, how about caller number 3? Caller number 3 right now, 569-1080. Love to give it away from somebody out in the Valley. 357-5868. That is the number for our Valley listeners. Tom Anderson, by the way, is on in the morning. That guy is the funniest person that I've heard in just a long time. But he's got this stream of consciousness that just goes on, and you never know where it's going to go, but it's just an absolute hoot. 357-5868. That's the number for our Valley listeners. This is your drive home, and we want to keep you on the road. Payless Car Sales, of course, a great place to find your next vehicle. And 569-1080 for a $50 gas card, courtesy of those folks over there. Ali, Jose, JC, Russell, all the folks over at Payless Car Sales. A $50 gas card on. I love this feint. What do you call it? A gambit? I think that's what you call it. I think you call it a gambit in chess, where you know that the outcome is, what the outcome is going to be, but you play the move anyway, something like that. So here's Les Guerra, right? There's nobody further to the left than Les Guerra. He loves the public school system monopoly and all kinds of stuff. Ben Chavis, by the way, is going to be talking about public schools. If you don't want to pay an income tax, I'll just let you know that train goes through one station, and it's called public education. There is no other way for us not to pay an income tax unless we deal with the cost of public education. We can't do it. If we continue to pay $2.1 billion, which is like half of all the money we could spend in the whole state of Alaska, all of our transportation budget, running the court system, running the jail system, everything is going to eat. You got schools, $2.1 billion, and everything else, $2.1 billion. That's our level funding right now. There's no possible way without reducing the cost of education, and there's no way that we know of to do that other than educational choice. So whether you don't like it at all, but you'll accept it because you don't want an income tax, welcome aboard. If you're not sure about it, and maybe you think, well, I don't know, how bad could it be? They've put it in Indiana. They put it in Wisconsin. I think there's 23, 29 places, something like that, all over the country where they put in educational choice and vouchers, mostly for poor kids, by the way. And maybe that's where we'll start. We don't even know. Our Constitution prevents us. It guarantees a public system education monopoly. Maybe it would just be that you would be able to take your tax money, and instead of sending it off to, the monetary beast, maybe you want to dedicate that money to help send a low-income child to a private school of their choice. So maybe that would be the school of your choice. How about that? Different opportunities. Ben Chavis is going to be talking today at APU starting at 6:30. So just after we click off here. And I can't go to this one, so I'm going to go out to the Valley, Bonnie. My wife and I are going to have a night of driving and close friendship building time. Do you like driving with your husband, by the way?
I do. I love driving. Yes.
We drove cross country. We drove 3 times up and down the Alaska highway.
Oh, now that's when you know you have a good marriage.
Yeah. And we enjoyed it. She let me drive, and she didn't complain all that much. Now, I did lose my eyesight in the middle of it because I'd been driving for like 4 days.
You didn't take turns?
Well, no, we hadn't taken turns up to that point, but then it was her turn from there on. And actually, it was the worst experience I think I've ever had.
Oh.
There's these like little muscles in your eye, and apparently they can get so tired that you can no longer focus if you do something like drive for 4 days.
Was your eye twitching?
Straight.
I hate it when that happens.
Well, I hate that too. Well, this is what happened. So we'll get to like day 3.5, and we made it all the way from Texas all the way up into Canada. We're like 300, 400, 500 miles into Canada, and we're driving on these huge dirt roads in nowhere, Canada. And all of a sudden I could not see looking straight. So, but what I did find out is my peripheral vision was still okay. So I actually looked to the side of the road, and my head's cocked to the side, and I can still see sort of what's going on because these roads are really wide. This is stupid.
That's so strange.
Actually, it's pretty dumb. But I'm still driving. We're still on the road. We're still moving. We're making good time, right? Maybe not the safest situation you could think of. And so I drove that way for like 100 miles, and I finally woke up my wife and I said, I can't see. I can no longer see. I can't even, I'm getting actually physically ill looking out my peripheral vision. So she said, well, I'll take over. And so she took over and I laid down in the back seat. I was a mess. She drove.
You gotta look out for animals.
Yeah.
And
it was totally stupid.
Yeah.
I'd never run across that before. I've never had tired eyes.
That's weird.
And it happens all the time now.
I did drive it a few years ago. Me and a girlfriend actually drove it and had a great time, but we only drove like 10 hours a day. So
no.
It wasn't too bad. We'd take breaks.
We're not doing that. We were driving.
It's a man driving
18 to 20 hours a day. We were making good time.
We're gonna get there.
It's 95 miles an hour, on the huge freeways, and we were busting.
My dad has driven it, I think, 40 times.
What?
Yeah, yeah, since 1952.
Oh my gosh.
He's amazing, and he loves it every single time. He's coming back up actually in April, and he and my mom.
It's just what's great about it is you and nature sort of become one, even though it's speeding by at 100 miles an hour or whatever. And you can actually hear your bank account being drained by the gas costs in Canada.
Guzzle, guzzle.
No, what fun. What great fun that is. Oh, my goodness. Well, look, did we give away the gas card, by the way? We got to give away the gas card. You got to call us up right now, 569-1080, and the Payless Car Sales. Or did we give it away?
We actually have a winner.
Okay,
her name is Heather.
Heather.
And we're just about done with the show.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's been a great day.
All Heather's got to do is just drop by. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of great calls today. Alaska Republican Assembly head gave us a call, told us that Mark Newman out in the valley, he's looking after the budget and doing a great job of doing that. Richard called us up, told us that somebody on public assistance with 3 children could cost us $100,000 a year, given all the different subsidies and free health care and everything that they get. What a day. What a great show. Nathan McPherson was on with us and told us some of the crazy questions they can ask you in those Common Core tests. Folks, 2 minutes before the hour, have a wonderful Thursday. I'll talk to you on Friday. Have a good drive home.